Imagine you're in a dark place with no light, no way to determine who or what is around you. Suddenly, you hear a strange sound, a soft footstep, a heavy breath or worse, a voice you don't recognize. A power outage isn't just an inconvenience. Sometimes it opens the door to the scariest things you've ever experienced. Stay until the end of the video, because the final story may make you rethink living alone in the dark. If you're brave enough to watch it all, comment 1. If not, comment 0. Story 1. The Basement Intruder. One cold February night, my wife and I were lying in bed watching a late-night movie. Suddenly, the TV and all the lights went out. Annoyed, we realized the power was out. I stepped outside for a moment to see if our neighbors had power. They did. Our fuse box was in the basement, so I went down with a flashlight. Our basement door was odd. It was at the bottom of the stairs. When I got there, the door wouldn't budge. Frustrated, I assumed my wife had locked it. After a trip back upstairs, she handed me the basement key. Back at the door, the key turned, but the door was still stuck. My wife came down, teased me, and with a gentle push, I opened the door easily. Embarrassed, I joked about loosening it for her and continued down. Inside the basement, I flipped the fuse, restoring the power. But as I closed the fuse box, I heard a door creak behind me. One of the closets in the basement was slightly open. My heart was pounding as I approached it. In the silence, I suddenly realized that the light switch had not been turned off by accident. Someone must have pulled the basement door shut. Then I heard a sigh from the closet. Fear gripped me, and I ran up the stairs, locking the door behind me. I rushed to the bedroom, explaining to my wife as I ran. I wasn't the brave protector I wanted to be, but I called the police. While we waited, we heard the sound of shattering glass coming from the basement. When the police arrived, the intruder had fled, leaving broken glass and a mess. The exit was obvious, through the broken basement window. That night, we left all the lights on and locked every door. We didn't sleep well, knowing that someone had broken into our home. Living in a nice neighborhood did not protect us from the horror. The next day, we had the glass fixed, but our sense of security was forever shattered. Story 2. Meeting the school janitor. As a janitor at a commuter college, my job involved cleaning the various buildings on campus. One summer night, during a violent storm, I was working in the usually quiet activities center. In 0 p.m., the power went out, plunging the building into darkness except for the red glow of the exit sign. I called another janitor in another building, confirming the campus-wide blackout. I decided to finish and follow the light of the exit sign, but then I saw a head peeking out from around the stairs. I called out, thinking it was a colleague, but the figure disappeared upstairs. I followed, knowing I needed to lock down the building. Upstairs, the darkness was oppressive, with only a few dim backup lights scattered around. I called out, announcing my intention to lock down the building, but the eerie silence confused me. I started walking around, checking each room. In the bathroom, I saw no one. Just when I thought the building was empty, I heard footsteps behind me. For one of the dim lights, I turned but saw nothing. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up as I continued. Near the front door, I saw a figure hiding behind a half-open door. I called out again, telling them to leave. Instead, the figure turned and ran. It was my job to chase them, so I went outside and called the campus police. They came, searched the building, but found no one. That night, the campus police called me, asking for a description of the person I saw. I couldn't give any details. The darkness obscured everything. Then they told me something chilling. A murderer had been spotted near the school. The realization that I might have encountered a dangerous fugitive sent shivers down my spine. I did not sleep well that night, haunted by thoughts of the dark lurking in the shadows. For a while afterward, every shadow and creak in the buildings I cleaned seemed more sinister, the memory of that stormy night haunting me. Story 3. A Whisper in the Dark. During a relentless thunderstorm, Emily finds herself home alone in her family's large, dilapidated house. The power suddenly goes out, plunging the house into darkness. With only the flashlight on her phone, she ventures down to the basement to check the fuse box. The flickering light barely penetrates the oppressive darkness, casting eerie shadows on the walls. As she reaches the fuse box, she hears a low, raspy whisper behind her. Heart pounding, she turns, but the beam of light only reveals an empty space. Determined to restore the power, she heads back to the fuse box. Suddenly, the basement door slams shut upstairs. She feels a cold breath on her neck and turns, her flashlight catching a glimpse of a distorted face before it disappears, and panicking, she fumbles with the fuse, finally restoring the power. The lights flickered back on, revealing the basement empty except for her. Emily ran upstairs, only to find muddy footprints leading to her bedroom. The air grew colder, and the whispers grew louder, as if the walls themselves were speaking. She locked herself in the bathroom, trying to calm her racing heart. A moment later, she heard heavy footsteps outside the door, and the doorknob shook violently. Just when she thought things couldn't get any worse, the power went out again. Plunged into darkness, she listened to the footsteps fade away, then silence. Gathering her courage, she slowly opened the door, the light from her phone revealing the empty hall. She tiptoed back to her room, heart pounding, only to find a cold message scrawled across the fogged mirror. "I'm still here." Unable to sleep, she spent the night huddled in bed, every creak and whisper amplified by her fear. When morning finally came, she found the house exactly as she had left it, with no sign of an intruder. Despite her relief, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her, waiting for the next power outage. Story 4. Philadelphia Construction Incident. In my 20s, I worked as a construction worker and engineer in the Philadelphia area. One of our assignments in 2012 was to add a small basement and expand the main floor of our coroner dentist building. We were making steady progress and had recently installed working lights in the basement. One evening, after sealing off the basement, my coworker Jordan went upstairs to help install the exterior. Meanwhile, I was fiddling with some electrical components. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out. I knew the power outage was not my fiddling, but a power outage. We never carried our phones because of the nature of our work and dirty hands. We were all wearing coats upstairs, but we had flashlights in our vests. Before I could grab my phone, a strange rattling noise caught my attention. It sounded like a coin purse shaking. The noise came from the small bathroom that was about to be built. I took out my flashlight and shined it on the bathroom door, which was slightly open. I thought it might be one of my coworkers playing a prank on me. As I gripped the doorknob, I hesitated before pulling it open. My flashlight shone on a figure dressed in black, standing in the corner of the room with its back to me. Just as I was about to call out, the figure turned around like a startled deer. My flashlight caught the strange light in its eyes. Terror surged through me. I slammed the door shut and ran up the stairs, my heavy boots clattering loudly. Outside, I saw my coworkers packing up for the night because the power outage had affected nearby buildings. When I told them what I had seen, they were skeptical. However, I insisted that they follow me back to the basement. To my surprise, the mysterious figure had disappeared. My coworkers laughed, thinking it was my imagination. When they left, I locked the building door. Alone in my car, I felt a nagging urge to check the basement one last time. Gathering my courage, I unlocked the door and headed down with 2 flashlights, my trusty flashlight and my phone. The silence was oppressive. Just as I reached the bottom of the stairs, the clanking started again from the small room. Panicking, I ran upstairs, locked the basement door, and fled to my car. That Saturday night haunted me, and I never worked alone in that basement again.